So if you're somebody out there that's eating pretty clean, but maybe running into issues with you just can't seem to nail down a good night's sleep, you're not abusing caffeine, you're taking in hopefully the right amounts of magnesium, because that's really important too. You could be doing everything else right and just not getting enough fiber, and put a pretty low glass ceiling on your performance opportunity in a bunch of different areas.
What's up, YouTube? I'm here today with Tim Walsh, and we are going to be covering some of my blood work. I just got it done. Just kind of want to get some feedback from what he has to say, more from a macro kind of perspective, and I'll just give a little intro of how I train and everything, and just a little bit about me. And then I'll have a few questions of my own, so we'll get started. But basically, I'm 30 years old, natural, train hard, eat well, and just kind of want you to take a look at my blood work.
Okay.
Just kind of want to get some generic feedback on it. So just kind of basically just seeing how I'm doing, and then I'll just have a few questions of my own.
Sounds good. Full disclosure, both 30 years old and natural are well in the rearview mirror for me.
All right, so yeah, you can, if you just need a minute to look over that, that's fine.
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds here.
Yeah, I'm pretty, I wouldn't say new to training. I have been pretty hard for a couple years, and I really just, since working here, started getting more into like the powerlifting thing, and really dialing more in on my nutrition. And I just had a meeting with the health coach. Yeah, definitely thank you to Merrick Health for making this possible. Wouldn't be done without him, and they're also a sponsor of the podcast for a long time now. But I just had a meeting with the health coach, Peter Fisher, and we basically just kind of went through it as well. And he basically said, everything looks good, nothing to freak out over. But yeah, that's kind of what he said. But
so what I'm seeing at first glance here, and I'll just kind of, I guess maybe the easiest way to do this is I'll just kind of go through them line by line.
Yeah,
talk about the number that I see and what might be either positively or potentially negatively contributing to that from a nutrition perspective.
Yeah.
Although I don't think I'm going to pick out anything that's kind of negatively contributing, because I don't see anything at first glance that's out of shape. You can
say whatever you want. So. I'm just here to listen.
Dear God, man, what the risks you're taking. So first things first here, when I look at your lipid panel, your total cholesterol at 156, generally speaking, as long as we see that number south of 200 for total cholesterol, that's what's considered to be well within acceptable ranges. At 156, you're basically perfect. HDL cholesterol is commonly referred to as good cholesterol, and then LDL cholesterol is commonly referred to as bad cholesterol. That's become kind of a misnomer. We're really not supposed to. That's kind of misleading to call either one of them good or bad. I won't get into the weeds about specifically why that is, but generally speaking, we want to see the HDL number higher, like as high as we can get it, and LDL we want to keep on the low side. Both of yours are well within range.
All right.
Your triglycerides, generally speaking, so yours are great, if I'm reading this correctly. Yeah, your total triglycerides are at 48. We just want to see that number anywhere south of 150, so you're well below that. Generally speaking, so what would be alarming potentially if we saw triglycerides north of 150, if they were 160, 190, anywhere up like that, that might be, well, the first thing we would talk about if I was your nutritional advisor or maybe your doctor, I might say, hey, we need to talk a little bit about the particulars of your diet and specifically your fat intake and where those fats are coming from. I would be highly suspicious that your fat sources aren't extra virgin olive oil or avocado. If I'm seeing triglycerides through the roof, I could probably guess with relative accuracy what your favorite place is to go get French fries or burgers or that type of thing. So if we see triglyceride numbers up, first thing that we would go looking for is how much fat is this individual taking in, and then what sources of fat are contributing to that total number. And then we'll talk about pulling out some of the usual suspects and putting in some of the fat sources that are going to be higher in unsaturated fats, higher in omega-3s.
All right. I wrote down my macros so I can just read those off. So
okay.
Have a baseline of where I'm at. Well, I did just finish my first cut ever of my life.
How'd it go?
Lost 20 pounds.
Nice.
Kept the muscle. A little shaky under some heavier weight, but still feeling good. So I went from 204 to 185, 184-ish.
Nice. Over what period of time?
20 weeks, so a pound a week.
Perfect.
I just wanted to go super
beautiful
slow.
pace.
Yeah, super slow.
Yep.
I don't compete. I kind of want to in the fall, but we'll see.
Cool.
But yeah, so basically now I'm back up to calories for 3,149, protein 227, fats 104, carbs 323. That I just track it through just an app. So
Okay.
it's just kind of like, that's how I basically did the weight loss. And it had me down to like 2,500 was the lowest it ever got, which I thought was phenomenal. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, I was still hungry, but I wasn't like dying.
You weren't
anything.
suffering too bad?
But,
Okay, that's good.
yeah, so that's kind of like where I'm at now. My diet is very simple. It's literally a lot of just chicken and rice because I hate meal prep. And
It's not broke, don't fix it.
yeah, it's the easiest thing to make. I have a lot of protein shakes, protein bars, stuff like that. But yeah.
So my first question, because a sort of a cornerstone, a foundation of the service that I provide for my athletes is based around specifically optimizing gut microbiome. Basically, gut health is really, really important to me. So the first question that I have when I hear those macros, because they sound great and they make perfect sense for everything that you said you're trying to accomplish. Do you have any idea, or do you use an app that tracks your total fiber intake? Do you have any idea what your fiber intake is?
It probably does it in there, but
Okay,
I'll be honest, I'm mostly just focused on calories and protein.
Okay, so this is a great learning opportunity,
Yeah,
not only
I need to learn,
for you, but for all of you out there in YouTube land. So generally speaking, so I'm Canadian, so I'm going to use the Canadian health recommendations, but I think they're probably just about the same as in the US. So recommended daily intake for total fiber is 25 grams. So it's probably not news to anybody that there's two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble fiber. So your total fiber intake will very, very heavily dictate what the quality or the robustness of your gut microbiome is. And really what that speaks to is how much healthy bacteria do we have in the digestive environment, and what is the available energy like for that healthy gut microbiota. So the two types of fiber that we probably are all familiar with, at least by name, soluble and insoluble, kind of deliver what they promise. So insoluble fiber, just like it says, the body doesn't really absorb it. It just sort of moves through the digestive system, almost like a broom, and it just sort of sweeps toxins out and it adds bulk to our poop. And that's great, super important. But I would say probably almost more important is the soluble fiber that we get from various different grains and fruits and vegetables. As the name implies, soluble fiber can actually be broken down and absorbed by the body. So soluble fibers get broken down into what are called short-chain fatty acids. And those short-chain fatty acids are the fuel upon which the healthy bacteria in the gut thrive on. So if we've got lots of short-chain fatty acids available for the healthy bacteria, they can be really good at their job. And their job is to break down the food that we eat. So all of your chicken and your rice and all of your other foods that we're hoping to build muscle and burn fat with. The best case scenario is that we can actually extract all the nutrients from those foods. But if we're not getting enough total fiber, and specifically soluble fiber, we can get into a situation where we've got all this food coming through. So imagine like a big conveyor belt with all this food, all that chicken and rice that's coming through there. If we don't have enough really healthy, well-fueled digestive bacteria, then we haven't optimized our ability to absorb all the nutrients. So it can lead to a situation where, best case scenario, we're just not absorbing the nutrients from our food. But worst case scenario, we can get into a situation called gut dysbiosis, which can lead to what's called leaky gut syndrome, which I won't get into the weeds about, but we would like to avoid it if we can. Yeah. So if you, the next time you open up one of the app that you're using, hopefully it allows you to track the amount of fiber that you're taking in. If you run through all the foods that you're eating and you see that number at least 25 or maybe even a little bit higher, then good, we're moving in the right direction. But typically, now this isn't, so the number I'm about to throw out is typical Canadian or typical North American diet, so not somebody who's being healthy and training regularly, but the typical North American gets like 7 to 12 grams of fiber a day, which is not surprising when we look at the general health of the typical North American. Yeah. But what can happen, and I see it happen all the time, and I used to be guilty of it too until I really started researching gut health, is we're eating lots of nutrient-dense foods, but they're not necessarily all that fiber-rich, because chicken, rice, and repeat is not a high-fiber meal. So we just want to make sure that we're adding two things, really. A little bit of vegetable. So if you're having some chicken and rice, if you could have some asparagus or some green beans or something to get that soluble fiber, also commonly referred to as prebiotic fiber. Then on top of that, if we really want to check that box, we get some probiotics in there. So a little bit of kimchi or sauerkraut, and then that's going to, so the kimchi or sauerkraut, any any of those fermented foods, that's going to deliver the actual probiotic, the healthy gut microbiota. Pardon me, and then the soluble fiber is going to feed, that's going to be the energy source for the healthy bacteria. So then we're getting the best of both worlds. And then the sort of far-reaching impacts beyond just creating a better digestive environment. If we've got a really, really healthy gut microbiota, that's going to optimize production and absorption of two really important hormones for us, serotonin and melatonin. If we're producing and can absorb lots of serotonin, then we actually have the ability, if without serotonin, you literally can't experience joy. And then if your melatonin levels are messed up, that's going to kibosh your circadian rhythm. And then that can potentially make it really difficult to get a good night's sleep. So if you're somebody out there that's eating pretty clean, but maybe running into issues with, you just can't seem to nail down a good night's sleep, even though everything else, you're not abusing caffeine, you're taking in hopefully the right amounts of magnesium, because that's really important too. You could be doing everything else right and just not getting enough fiber, and put a pretty low glass ceiling on your performance opportunity in a bunch of different areas. So I realize I just chewed up. We're supposed to be assessing blood work. I just chewed up like 9 minutes on gut health.
No, that's good. Yeah, we're still good to go.
The other thing that will really positively impact your blood work, and specifically with regard to your lipid panel, and the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is C-reactive protein, which is an inflammation marker. I don't want to paint in too broad of strokes, but generally speaking, all inflammation starts in the gut. So if you've got a really optimized gut microbiome, your body's very good at sequestering systemic inflammation. So that kind of leads right into the next number here. HSCRP, CRP stands for C-reactive protein. We want to see that number anywhere below 1.0. You're at 0.7, which means as far as systemic inflammation, you're in a great spot. If that number was maybe somewhere that was creeping up, and there wasn't another obvious indicator as to why that might be. Like if you said, I actually train 3 times a day, 7 days a week, then I might say, okay, we might have that might be creating too much training stress. So it would lead right back to my first question was, let's talk about your gut health.
Yeah, I could definitely add some veggies to my chicken and rice, just because I hate meal prep so much. I'm just like, even though it's something so easy to do, I'm just like, I don't want to take the time on it. So now I should probably start doing that.
I promise it's totally worth it. If you were to say to yourself, and you don't have to answer this question right now, if you were to say to yourself, is there room for improvement in either my ability to handle different types of stress, training stress, social stress, relationship stress, whatever. If you think there might be room for improvement, that could be serotonin related, and that's very likely gut health related. Or if there was, like I said, if your inflammation markers were a little bit high, or if your sleep was irregular and you've tried everything else, go back, how much fiber are we getting? It could be a quick fix right there. Glucose, so fasted blood glucose, super duper important here. Yours is at 7.8. We read that a little bit differently in Canada. It's a different measurement, but yours is read in milligrams per deciliter. So at 7.8, you're basically right in the middle. So it's basically perfect. So just so the viewer understands, if our fasted blood glucose is out of range, if it's higher than we would want to see it, that's a dead giveaway that we've got potential opportunity for improvement with insulin sensitivity. So if our body has become less sensitive to its own insulin, it makes it really easy to put on body fat. It makes it really difficult to get body fat off. It also drives up systemic inflammation, which unnecessarily blunts the body's ability to recover from training. So if we see that number of fasted blood glucose is out of shape, we want to get right on top of that. So hopefully it's just a matter of, we draw that back to nutrition. Most of the time, especially if an individual is like you and they're very physically active, we won't pick on the typical North American diet here, because I think probably most people that are going to be viewing this are actually they're doing their best to try and live a healthy, active lifestyle. So we won't pick on the typical North American. If fasted blood glucose, if a person is doing, if they would say they're doing everything to the best of their ability to stay really healthy, but their fasted blood glucose is still on the high side, it's probably as simple as their total calorie intake is a little bit too aggressive. And specifically speaking, they're probably taking in more carbs they are taking in more carbs than their body can properly metabolize without having elevated blood sugar levels. And then, so First thing we would probably want to do, shave back carbohydrates a little bit, probably add in some cardio if they're not doing any, because that's another way that we can very positively impact fasted blood glucose, is just start doing some cardio.
Yeah, I do very minimal, bare minimum, but I do it.
So far you're getting away with it beautifully. Okay. I'm certainly not anti-cardio, but full disclosure, I don't do much of it. I'm just really, really tight with my nutrition, and I train hard, and I try to get, I guess this sort of in a weird way counts as cardio nowadays. If you're, I just focus on my step count. If I get 10 to 12,000 a day and none of them happened on a treadmill, then that's my get out of jail free card, so I don't have to spend any time on the treadmill. And I think that's ultimately the proof's in the pudding. If you're getting blood work done regularly, or even if you're just somebody because I have a bunch of clients that check their fasted blood glucose, like it's actually part of their weekly check-in data. So if they're monitoring that 2 to 3 times a week, then they know in the moment if something gets a little wonky and fasted blood glucose starts to become elevated for some reason, we don't have to wait till the next time they go see the doctor. Like, we can get on that. If we notice it on Monday and then it's still there on Wednesday, we've addressed it by Friday. So, all right. But yours is great. Creatinine, not to be confused with creatine.
Yeah, from a normal doctor, they've always said that, oh yeah, you have this high level of creatinine, and then there was one time where they recommended I get like, what is it, where they put the jelly on your stomach and they like look around, ultrasound,
yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, really? I was like, for that? I was like, I've been told that forever. And so I went, and then the results came back and they're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong. And
that's because you have more muscle than the average person.
Yeah, and I was like, I already knew nothing was wrong, but my mom was kind of like, oh, you should probably get it done. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go. And yeah, so what does that have to do?
That brings up a really good point. So this is something that's going to happen. This is going to happen. If you've got more muscle than the average person, in your age group or your age and your height and weight range. Like, if you're somebody who works out, and this is guys and girls, you're going to have more muscle than nature intended. And it's really important to remember that what's considered the acceptable healthy range for blood work like this is meant to paint the whole world with the same brush. So the average person who doesn't work out isn't carrying 20 or 30 or 50% more muscle mass than nature intended. And the acceptable ranges in this reference is based on what we would normally expect from an average person. So creatinine is created as a waste product when we train. So even if you go 2 or 3 or 4 days, because sometimes somebody will say, okay, well, don't work out for 3 days before you go and get your blood work done, and then your blood urea nitrogen and your creatinine numbers won't be elevated, and then your doctor won't freak out. Well, if you have a whole bunch of muscle, you can take 3 weeks off training, and your blood urea nitrogen, which is another indicator of too much muscle wasting, and creatinine levels are still going to be elevated just because you have a whole bunch of muscle. But for sure, they're going to be elevated if you've trained within 24 hours of getting your blood work done. So yeah, if either an individual, if they just are assessing their own blood work, or if they have a chat with their doctor and their doctor goes, oh my goodness, like you're going to go into kidney failure here, like your blood urea nitrogen, your creatinine levels are off the charts. It's just because you have more muscle than the average person, and especially if you worked out within 24 to 48 hours ahead of your blood work done, then they're going to be even more elevated. Super nothing to worry about.
All right. That's what I thought.
Yeah, and actually, so this is worth mentioning too, though. A lot of the time when you go get your blood work done, just as a general rule of thumb, so that they can get your fasted blood glucose, they want you to come in having not eaten anything in the morning. And a lot of times people think, okay, well, if I'm not allowed to eat anything, then I probably also shouldn't drink anything. So most people go into their blood work dehydrated because they haven't even had any water since before they went to bed the night before. And a lot of these numbers, especially with relation to your kidney markers, they can be elevated just because you're dehydrated. So a great way, and I'm glad that this popped into my head while we're having this conversation, because this is for everybody who's going to get blood work done. Drink at least a liter of water. I'm Canadian, sorry, so I don't know what that's like.
What is that in ounces?
Quarter of a gallon or
right. I know I drank
ounces or something.
32 ounces of water before. That's just kind of what Dave told me.
Okay, yeah, so perfect. So that's a great rule of thumb.
Somewhere around there.
32 ounces would be a great rule of thumb. Get 32 ounces of water into your body before you go get your blood work done, and then we won't have any sort of false positives that are actually just due to the fact that you were dehydrated when you got your blood work done. So 32 ounces of water. I don't know what that works out to in liters, but it sounds like a healthy amount, and that will avoid some unnecessary red flags that'll show up in your blood work. Hemoglobin at 5.3, so we want it anywhere south of 5.7. Essentially, that's just how thick is your blood. So this is for my PED users out there in the world. Anybody using exogenous testosterone, you can absolutely guarantee to a certain degree it's going to drive up hemoglobin. How much you're using or what particular compound you're using and how sensitive you are to it will dictate how much that elevates or how much thicker your blood gets. If left unchecked, it's as you would expect. If blood gets thick, it's going to drive up blood pressure. So we don't want that for an extended period of time. That's another thing, actually. Your blood pressure can get driven up, resting heart rate can get driven up, not blood pressure, if you're dehydrated because your blood gets thin and then the heart has to beat faster. So another reason, get your 32 ounces in. But if you're using any sort of PEDs, you got to really keep an eye on your hemoglobin, because if your blood gets too thick for too long, that can lead to cardiovascular risks that we don't want.
Yeah. Is there anything on there that is sticking out? Because it sounds like most of it's good. Most of it is pretty good.
Your
But
ALT.
if there's anything negative, we can probably address that.
Your ALT and AST levels, technically speaking, are just above range. So those are indicators. ALT and AST are both indicators of kidney stress, but you're just a little bit on the high side.
What could that be from kidney stress? What could be? Is that part of my diet then, or?
So there's a few different things. The ones that are sort of worth speaking to. If you're taking in, I want to be really careful how I say this, because it is absolutely untrue that following a high protein diet is dangerous for your kidneys. That's just, if you have healthy kidneys.
Thank you.
That's full stop. Yeah.
So many people tell me.
So you're not.
Like, oh, you need to cut back on the protein.
Yeah,
like,
you're not in danger. You can eat.
It's not a thing.
If you can get 500 grams of protein in a day and that suits you, you can totally do that. I'm not advocating that, because the other thing that's really important is taking in a hell of a lot of protein doesn't improve the rate at which you build muscle. Yeah. You can only build muscle so fast. So our general rule of thumb, a gram of protein per pound of body weight, the science shows us if you're doing that and you're training hard, you're in a really good position to build muscle, and that's great. And then whatever your individual DNA is, like however the universe blessed you with your ability to build muscle, that's on you. But it is true that your kidneys are basically like a pair of pool filters. So just like the filter on your pool at home, their job is just to filter your pool filter. The job is to filter all the water. So your kidney's job is just to filter all the blood that goes through. So when you put in extra amino acids into the bloodstream, there's extra amino acids that have to be filtered out, unless the body wants to do something with them. So technically, you are asking the kidneys to do their job a little bit more. But you're not stressing them out. If your job was to hammer 10 nails into a wall every hour, and then I came along and said, hey, we gotta beef up productivity here, so I need you to start hammering 12 nails into the wall every hour. And you go, okay. So it's just 2 extra. If there was a work output rating that we measured, and yours, let's say it's indicated by your ALT and AST levels here, they're slightly elevated. So technically, I'm making you work a little bit harder to put those 2 extra nails in. It's still well within your capacity. You're not exhausted. Your wife's not calling because you're coming home 3 hours late after work all the time. Everything's good. But technically speaking, I'm making you do your job with a little bit of extra intensity. So if there's extra amino acids because your protein intake is nice and high, technically we're asking the kidneys to do a little bit more work. So there's going to be a little bit more indicator that more work is being done, but it's nothing to be upset about. These numbers would need to be well above where they are for an extended period of time before that would really be a concern. And yeah, that's it. So right. I'm glad that we talked about that too, because I've been in this industry for
everyone can see.
Yeah, like 30 years.
Professional and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started working when I was 13. I'll be 50 in September, and I still have random people come up to me in the gym giving unsolicited advice. They'll come and ask me how much, just out of curiosity, to carry all this muscle around, how much protein do you take in a day? And I say, well, I weigh 250 pounds. I shoot for about 250 to 280. And I don't know. I read that's really bad for you. And I die a little inside.
Yeah, I weigh 185. and I'm like 220, sometimes 300. And I'm like, not just like stuffing myself full just to get there. It's like, if it happens, it happens. Like, more the merrier. Like, as long as I'm not under, I'm fine.
100%. Yeah, it's so much more terrible. More terrible, so it's terrible English. To undershoot your protein intake than it is to overshoot your protein intake. And especially, it's worth mentioning, especially if somebody's out there, if they're dieting, if you're in a calorie deficit anyway, and let's say you're in a situation where, outside of prepping for a show, because you should be doing exactly what your coach is telling you, but let's just say you're just trying to lean out for summer, and you're really, really hungry, and it's 8 o'clock at night, and you've already eaten all your food. If 4 or 5 ounces of chicken with a little mustard on it is going to take the edge off so you can go to bed, 30% of those extra protein calories that come in are going to get burned off just because of the thermic effect of food. So definitely a little extra protein. I can't make an argument against that, except for the specific circumstance. If you're meal prepping for a show and you're paying a coach and your coach is good, do exactly what your coach told you. Otherwise, a little extra protein will only do good things for you.
All right. Something that I see all the time on social media, energy drinks are awful for you. I know there's stuff in them that are obviously not good, but my blood work and everything seems to be pretty good.
Yes.
And I will say, with energy drinks here at my disposal, I do consume a decent amount, no more than 2 a day, but still, it's like, I see all the time on social media, even like people will just send me things like, oh, energy drinks are killing you. And sometimes I'm like, well, that was made with AI. You can,
Totally.
You can tell, but like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, yes, there are some things that are not good about it, but
this I'm confident to speak in pretty broad strokes. So generally speaking, because that same thing, I hear it all the time. People will say, they'll catch me. I drink in Canada, the legal limit for caffeine in an energy drink is 180 milligrams. So we can't get the good stuff down here. Like, do you guys even have a limit?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's a pre-workout I had before, and it was 400 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah,
I had to go off it just because it was just constantly just blowing out my system.
Yeah,
that's too much.
So what I guess what I would say is, I would say in painting in broad strokes, energy drinks are not quote unquote bad for you. Generally speaking, I think when people say energy drinks are bad for you, what they mean is caffeine is bad for you. And then, so you have to peel back the layers a little bit. Caffeine is a wonderful drug. It's a tremendous ergogenic. It's absolutely fantastic. Too much of it, like too much of anything else, can start to be counterproductive. So everybody has a certain amount in total milligrams of caffeine that they can metabolize comfortably without it compromising, without it overtaxing their adrenal function and their central nervous system, and not keeping them up when they're trying to go to sleep at night. So for me personally, like what I've discovered over the years, the upper end of my tolerable dose for caffeine is about 300 milligrams. If I take 250 to 300 milligrams or anywhere below that, it'll improve my focus and my mental acuity and my explosiveness when I'm training. Like the energy drink, I drink one on the way to the gym every single morning. It's the same company, I just changed the flavor. It's called Rain. It's 180 milligrams. That seems to be perfect for me. And generally speaking, I just don't have any more caffeine for the rest of the day. I drink Diet Pop, but it's usually like Diet Ginger Ale or Diet Sprite or something. So I just don't take in much caffeine anymore. And that seems to be working great for me. If you're somebody who can comfortably metabolize, caffeine pretty well, I would say, if I'm going to paint in broad strokes, I would say probably the upper limit that I would put, or I would suggest at least for maybe one of my athletes, total for the day would probably be somewhere between 400 and 500 milligrams, unless they made a case for why they needed more, and it also wasn't negatively impacting blood pressure and resting heart rate, because I have them check that all the time, and sleep hygiene, because we talk about that very regularly too. But one thing that's really important to remember is that caffeine's got a very long half-life, and a lot of people don't realize that it's like 6 to 8 hours, depending on your body chemistry. So if somebody says, the way 400 milligrams of caffeine affects you when you take it at 9 o'clock in the morning before you train, especially if that's your only dose of caffeine for the day. If you go, I train like a maniac, it's fantastic. And then I say, okay, well, what time do you usually go to bed? And you say 9:30. And then I say, okay, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, where's your sleep hygiene? Oh, it's usually like an 8 or 9. I sleep for 8 hours. I wake up feeling rested. Perfect. You're good with the way you're doing your caffeine. But then if something screws up your daily schedule, and now you're not going to be able to train till 7 o'clock at night, and at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, you take your pre-workout that you would normally take and enjoy your day and enjoy your life and have a great night's sleep, and you take it at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and now you can't go to sleep until 3 o'clock in the morning, and your heart is racing. And you go, geez, why would that happen? Like, I only had it at 6 o'clock. I didn't go to bed till 10. Well, it's because 8 hours after you took in that 400 milligrams, only 50% of it has been metabolized yet, so you're still dealing with it. So the half-life of something, or the half-life of caffeine really creeps up on people if they're not aware of it. And otherwise, when you look at the general recipe for an energy drink, for the most part, it's things like B vitamins, there'll be some extra antioxidants in there. Other than the artificial sweeteners, and we could get into it about that, but I have seen zero data I've seen zero empirical data that shows that artificial sweeteners are really bad for you in any particular way. They don't spike insulin. They don't destroy your gut microbiome. The stuff where there is some data to show that was in rat studies, and that the amount that they gave the rats would be comparable to you or me having like kilograms of it at a time. So if we're painting in broad strokes and saying energy drinks are bad, if what the person really means is caffeine is bad, you just got to put an asterisk next to that. Too much caffeine can be bad, but if you understand the half-life of it and figure out how much your body can metabolize at a time, you're good. The other ingredients that are in there, unless somebody, again, because the rules are pretty strict in Canada, I usually see extra B vitamins and antioxidants. There's nothing crazy, unless there's some crazy formula, because you guys get away with more down here, where they're putting in, I don't even know what it would be, unless there's some ingredient X that I'm unaware of. Energy drinks are fine as long as you take into account what we talked about regarding the caffeine. That's my personal opinion anyway.
Sweet, that's good to hear. But we'll kind of wrap it up. But Tim's going to be on Table Talk, which we are shooting right after this.
Really looking forward.
So thanks for sitting down with me. Hopefully this was not too unprofessional or unbearable hearing me as a host.
I hope I didn't swear. I don't think I swore.
No, you're good. YouTube's not going to knock it or anything.
All right.
I think it's only the first 5 minutes anyway.
Perfect.
But thanks for helping me out with my stuff and some good information. And
it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We will get to shooting.
Awesome. Let's do it.